Mrs. Sticky just broke the entire global economy. And it started with one dumb idea. What if she could go back in time and invest early in everything? She'd read that the smartest investors always say the same thing. I wish I'd bought early. So she built a time machine. Not a good one, just one that worked. Her first stop, ancient Egypt. She figured, why not invest in the very first currency ever used? She walked up to a group of traders and offered them modern paper money in exchange for gold. They had never seen paper before. They didn't trust it. So she panicked and gave them her business card instead, promising it would be worth millions one day. They kept it as a religious artifact. 4,000 years later, that business card would be dug up, studied by archaeologists, and declared the most confusing historical discovery of the century. Undeterred, she traveled to Holland in the 1600s, right in the middle of the famous tulip craze, where people were trading entire houses for a single flower, bulb. Mrs. Sticky thought, this is easy. I'll just buy tulips low and sell them high. So she bought every tulip bulb she could find. All of them. The entire market's supply, which meant nobody else could buy or sell tulips at all. The market didn't crash. It just stopped existing. Historians still don't fully understand why the tulip trade ended so abruptly. It was her. Next, she jumped to the 1990s, right before the dot-com boom. She thought, I know exactly which companies are about to explode. So she walked into an office and tried to invest in what she called the internet. Nobody knew what she was talking about. She got escorted out of 3 separate buildings. In the 4th, she panicked and instead invested in a website that sold pet rocks. Again, it failed. Again. At this point, she realized her problem. She wasn't failing because she was in the wrong time period. She was failing because she had no idea what she was actually doing. She just liked the idea of being early, so she tried a new strategy. Instead of guessing, she'd go back and stop bad financial decisions before they happened. Fix the mistakes of the past. Surely that would work. She traveled to the day of the stock market crash of 1929. She ran into the middle of the trading floor, screaming at everyone to stop selling. Nobody understood her. She caused so much chaos that people assumed something even worse was happening, and the panic got worse, not better. She accidentally made the crash happen 4 hours earlier than it originally did. Still not learning her lesson, she went further back to try to prevent the very first economic bubble in history, the South Sea bubble. She tried to warn investors not to buy in, but because she used modern financial terms nobody understood, they assumed she was some kind of profit warning of a much bigger disaster. This caused an even bigger buying panic, not less. By now, something strange was happening. Every trip she took wasn't just failing quietly in the past. It was rippling forward through time. Back in the present day, banks were reporting currencies that didn't match any known history. Countries had industries that shouldn't exist yet. In one country, the entire economy ran on pet rocks. Every attempt to fix the past was quietly rewriting the present. Mrs. Sticky didn't know any of this yet. She just thought she was on a losing streak. So she made her boldest move yet. She decided to invest in something that couldn't possibly fail. Something everyone, in every time period, would always want. Gold. She traveled to as many different centuries as she could, buying gold in each one, planning to bring it all back to the present and sell it for a fortune. But gold doesn't move through time cleanly. Every time she carried gold from one era into another, it created a tiny financial distortion, a moment where too much gold existed in one timeline at once. One distortion was harmless. Dozens of them, stacked across centuries, were not. When she finally returned to the present with her time machine full of gold from a dozen different eras, the distortions all collided at once. Global markets didn't just dip. Every stock exchange on Earth froze within seconds. Currency values scrambled. Banks couldn't tell what year their own numbers belonged to. For 11 minutes, nobody on the planet knew what anything was actually worth. It became known, quietly and without explanation, as the 11-minute collapse. Nobody figured out why it happened, except Mrs. Sticky, who was standing in her time machine, holding several kilograms of ancient gold, absolutely certain this had nothing to do with her. Once the shock wore off and the economy slowly reset itself, she looked at everything she'd caused. A 4,000-year-old business card treated as a holy relic. A tulip market that ended a century early. A stock crash that happened hours ahead of schedule. An entire country running on pet rocks. And an 11-minute global collapse that experts would spend decades trying to explain. She realized the problem was never about timing the market. It was never about being early. Every single disaster she caused came from the same place, trying to shortcut the process instead of understanding it. So she made one final trip. Not to invest, not to fix anything. Just to return every piece of gold to exactly the time period it came from, undoing as much of the damage as she possibly could. It didn't undo everything. Some things, once changed, stay changed, but it stopped the bleeding. Mrs. Sticky came back to the present with nothing. No fortune, no gold, no proof any of it happened at all. Just one lesson that took traveling through 4 different centuries to learn. The past isn't a shortcut to wealth. It's just where all the same mistakes started in the first place.